Yeah, hope you guys are able to see my screen. Okay. Yesterday, we covered till the methods. Okay. So we learned like what is class, what is object, and mm, how to create a method inside a class, and what is the syntax, and how how the parameters can be taken care. All those things we learned yesterday for method. Okay. Now let us move to a new topic called access modifiers. Access control modifiers. Okay. This is a very interesting topic. Okay. So to you, if you remember, like, I wanted to take an example of, whenever we had some exams and all. Okay. We used to like, mom and dad used to like, ask us to study and, not, they usually not allowing us, to come out of our rooms. Okay. See, that is what one of the small example for access modifier, because there are some boundaries that our mother used to tell us, like you should not step outside until unless you complete your study, right? So see, this is like the topic, whatever, why we are taking that example, and why we are relating here in the Java, because the one which we took an example, it is like s- you are like you are sitting in a room and you're studying, and you're not coming outside of it, because there is a boundary that it has been set up for you not to come outside of that room. Okay. you can do you can do whatever you want inside the room, but outside the room you can't. Okay. So so there's a strict boundary for you. So this is called like we were setting a boundary, setting a boundary to you. Okay. To not to do anything after that boundary, right? So that means like so whatever the things that you can do inside, yeah, you can perform everything over there, but outside of it you cannot do. So this is where like access control modifier comes in. Okay. So we can access control modifiers will be specified using keywords. Okay. Restrict the scope of using the keywords. We can restrict the scope of variables, methods, okay, classes, and constructors. Okay, scope defines from where these entitles can be accessed, okay, and where they cannot. Okay, they specify which classes can access a given class and its fields, okay, constructors and methods. Okay, so for now, just keep aside for constructor. I will let you know what is a constructor and all. Okay, after learning this access. Okay, so access control modifiers. I was, there are four access control modifiers in the Java. One is default, public, private, and protected. Okay, what is, let us go and check what is default. Okay, so default is, you don't require to add anything specific keyword, to get the access of default. Okay. like access modifier, whatever the default is applied defaultly for each and every class, or the program that you're writing. Okay, when there is no access specifier declared, it say to have the default access control modifier. Okay, so this is true for class, methods, and data members. Okay, so the default will be applied for everything, and entitles having a default access specifiers are accessible in the same package. Okay, so I'll tell you what exactly this is one. And package is a group of classes and methods, okay, inside the same directory. Java uses directories to define the packages. Okay, so what we are saying, when you did not declare anything, access control modifier in the class, okay, it is going to uh, take it as a default access modifier. Okay, so when it is a default, right, so the default scope is between, inside the package, like generally what we do, we create some packages. Okay, and we write some code, right? Okay, so just a minute, I'll show you something. Okay, yeah, so I have this one, com dot study dot okay, under this package, okay, there are two packages. Under this first package, I have a class A and class B and class C. Okay, and under this, class D, class E, class F. Okay, now when it is a default access specifier, right? So default access specifier applies inside the package only. Okay, so that means if you wanted to access something, okay, from outside of the package, like if you want to access class B in class E, right? So what you need to do, you need to import you need to import entire package and the class, right? Then only you will be able to use that B class in a different package. Okay, otherwise, if you wanted to use the same B class in C class, there is no import required. Okay, why there is no import required? Because the default access specifier, you know has access level, like between inside the package. So you can directly use a B class in C. There is no import required because it is there in the same package. Okay, Yeah, that's what we mentioned over here. Entitles, entitled, sorry, entitled, entities, okay, having default access specifier or accessible in the same package. So class B, class C, class C, whatever you are seeing here, you can just access them inside the package without any hesitation, without any imports. Okay, so the default access can be there, inside the package. Sorry, inside the, yeah, inside the one package. Okay, and yeah, so to have a default access specifier, we don't need to specify anything explicitly. You just directly write the class, and the syntax of the class you already know, class and class name. Okay, so the same class, here actually is not declared with any access specifiers. Okay, so it is directly considered as default. Okay, yeah, now the second one is public. One second. Yeah, the second one is public. Okay, so public is very simple. Okay, it you can access. Okay, you can access from everywhere in the project. Okay, so like, let's say, if you have multiple packages in your application and you declared one of the class as public in one package, so that means, so it has a very big wide scope. You can access that class from anywhere in the project. Okay, whenever you wanted to entitle, so to define an entity with the public, so you have to use the keyword called public. Okay, so that means, public class A, that's what we are going to write it, right? Yeah, and when you define it as a public, actually that entity will be available for the users, okay, for all other classes, okay, without any problems. Okay, so this is how you are going to write a syntax of a class and also a variable. Okay, so the public class and public int, so these two are accessible, okay, everywhere. Okay. Okay, you don't require to add the public also for each number, because the class is already a public. So we generally use class to access the data members. So it is okay that if you declare it as a public also, it is fine, but yeah, there's no use. Okay, so the class itself is already public. Okay, so then you can utilize that data member from the public class itself. Okay, yeah, next one is private. Okay, so the private access methods, okay, and a private access modifier, right? This is like very limited scope, okay, for your class or for your data members. Okay, it is like within the class only you will be able to access the data members which are declared as a private. Okay, so if you wanted to access them out of the class, you won't be able to use them. Okay, if you declared it as a private. So how do you, how do you declare that? Actually, it is very simple. Instead of public, that whatever we used on data members, we just use it as private. Okay, the data member this number is declared as private. Now the access of this number variable is limited to this class. Okay. Okay, so generally I wanted to bring up one topic over here. Okay, whenever you have a private data member, okay, so if you wanted to access that private data member data, okay, there is only one way that you can do it. You can implement, okay, you can implement getters and setters method for that private variable. Okay, so you can set a value using the setter method, and you can set get a value whatever you have set it for that private value of that class. So using some getters and setters method, so you will achieve that you can access those methods, sorry, you can access those private values, okay, from the class. Okay, this is generally happens whenever you declared as a bean. Okay, so bean, where we use this bean actually used for declaring all the data members, and we generally generate the getters and setters in a bean class. Okay, yeah, going forward you'll understand what is bean and all. Okay, yeah, now there is a another access modifier or access specifier. It is protected. Okay, what is protected? Okay, protected is very simple. Actually, this protected is a concept whenever you go with an inheritance related things. So whenever you wanted to, um, you know, uh, inherit a property from the parent to child. Okay, so if you declared as a protected data member, and that protected data member will be available in your child class. Okay, so let's say now on the top you see there package A. Okay, in the package A there is a class A and class B. Okay, here this one, class A and class B. Okay, so which is getting inherited. Okay, so you have something in the class A which is declared as protected. Okay, that protected can be used directly in the class B. Okay, in the similar way, in the package B also you are having class A, class B, and you are inheriting something. So the class, whatever you have it in the class A in package B, yeah, it can be inherited directly to the class B. Okay, so protected can be used only on the data members and constructors, and can be declared as protected. Okay, classes cannot be declared as protected. Okay, yes, you can declare something like this: protected int this number equals to 10. So this data number will be as a declared as protected now. So thus this can be accessed within the same package and outside, but only when someone inherits this class to to their to the target class. Okay, so inheritance is mandatory whenever you wanted to use a protected variable, okay, without any declaration. Okay, hope you guys understand all these three default, four actually: default, public and private and protected. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, Yeah, to summarize whatever we learned, actually, the access control modifiers are keywords which specify which classes can access a given class. Okay, right? And its fields like constructors, data members, okay, and methods. So when there is no access specifier specified declared, and it is treated as default access control modifier. Okay, so entities having default access specifier are accessible in the same repository, sorry, same package. Okay, so the public access control modifier is the accessible everywhere. Okay, private access control modifier is accessible only within the class, and protected access control modifier is accessible within the same package as well as outside, but only using inheritance. So this is what we learned on, you know, okay. So let us go and learn what is the constructor. Okay. So constructor is a method which has the same name as class. Okay. So we call that, if it is carrying the same name of the class and without any parameters, we call it as a default constructor. Okay. Default constructor, you can see here there's a class that declared as learning constructor. Okay, and the public learning constructor, as we declared it as a method, and we opened parenthesis and closed it. Okay, so yeah, so as I mentioned, like, this is learning constructor is the same name which is having same as class name, right? Yeah, so yeah, why these constructors are, a special type of methods in Java? Because every class has a constructor. A constructor is responsible to construct its own class. Okay. Constructors are not considered as the data members of the class, but they are like kind of uh, kind of very important methods in the class. Okay. So how do you construct, uh, how do you construct a class, right, using this constructor? Okay, so before that question, we'll understand why, how, if you did not write a constructor, if you do not write a default constructor, okay, in Java, you know the Java compiler itself writes for you. Okay, if you did not write any of the default constructor within your class. Okay, so the constructor that Java compiler writes for us is known as default constructor. Okay, and it is inserted in the code during the compilation. Okay, if you did not write any constructor for your class. Okay, so but if you write a constructor, the default constructor is never created. Okay, so because you already have done the same thing whatever our compiler does it. Okay, so it will not override that. So constructor is mandatory, and if you are taking care of it, then it is okay. If it is, if you wanted to take, if you wanted to uh, ask compiler to take it, yeah, you don't require to create any of the default constructor method in your class. Okay, so every time an instance of an object is created when the constructor is called. Okay, so now you might understand with this statement, right? The constructor constructs its own class. Okay, so its own class means, like, you are going to create a numerous of objects, right? So for each and every object, okay, which requires a blueprint of the class, right? So how it does, you know using this constructor, you are going to build those objects. So every time whenever you call any constructor, it is going to allocate a new object for you. Okay, that's what we are saying. The constructor is used to provide initial values to the class fields when an object is created. And just like other method, constructors may or may not have the parameters. And if a constructor has parameters, it is known as parameterized constructor. Okay, so it is pretty simple. Like, see, whenever you require something, whenever you wanted to create a new object, okay, for one of the class, at that time, if you wanted to assign some default values in the constructor for the default, so what you do, so whenever the constructor gets called, like whenever your object is getting created, you are saying that, okay, this object will have these kind of default values for, you know, in the class, something like that. Okay, so you want, if you wanted to, initialize with some value, or if you wanted to call some, you know, pre pre-test methods, or something like that, so you can do those things in the constructors. Okay, whenever the object is getting constructed. Okay, so similarly, just like another methods, okay, constructor is also having a parameters. So if we have those parameters, then we call this constructor as a parameterized constructor. Okay, see, this example, it is like only the constructor is having without parameters, and it is default constructor. Okay, which is having only the name of the constructor, right, which is equal to the class name, and it doesn't have any parameters. Okay, so if you see here, uh, how you are constructing an object, right, using a constructor. So if you observe this line, public static void main, after that, if you observe this, learn constructor, learning one is our object, and we are declaring a new learning constructor, right? So learning constructor is what? What is this? This one is our constructor. So you are taking a new keyword and the constructor of the class. What it is giving, and what it is giving back to you? It is giving back an object of that class. Okay, it is giving back an object of that class. Okay, so now this object is having complete authority, complete access the for the properties of that class, right? So it's simply, whenever you construct it, okay, the constructor, getting called, and the output is, printing in the console. Okay, so I did not call any specific constructor, you know in the code, but I just tried to create a new object of the class, so it printed this, right? So why? Because the default constructor will getting called every time whenever you create an object. Okay, so what we learned, like, we saw how a constructor without a parameter works. So now let us explore how we can, create a constructor with a parameters. Okay, so let's say, just take this class an example. Okay, public class learning constructor. In the learning constructor, we have, like, two uh sorry, one second. Two data members. One is like name, and the one another one is type. So whenever you wanted to construct an object, you are strictly imposed that, you wanted to get these values, name and type, before considering creating that object. Okay, so what you will do in the constructor, you have added a couple of parameters. Okay, one is name and one is type. Okay, so this something like this: string new name and string new type. Okay, this dot type is equals to new type. Okay, and this dot name is equals to new name. So whatever the new name that you are going to pass it from the other class or wherever you are declaring that, uh, wherever you're calling that default or parameterized constructor, you are going to pass new name and new type, and this new name and new type will be assigned to the current object. So this refers the current object of learning constructor. So this dot name, what it will have, a new name whichever passed from the constructor, and this dot type, what it will have, new type which is passed from the constructor. Yeah, I already told you, like, this is a keyword in the Java, and it is used to reference the current instance of the method. Okay, where it is used like, this dot name is equals to new name. So the value, whatever we passed it from the new name, will be, added back to the, uh, you know, will be assigned back, to the variable name. Yeah. So it looks something like this. Okay, the example. So whenever you have some function int a, so this dot sum variable is equals to a. You are assigning a related value to the sum variable. Okay. So and it is referring to the current reference of that object or in a method. Okay. Okay, if you see here, whenever it is a constructor which is having a parameterized, okay, so this dot name and new type, okay, is equals to new name. The new name is passed for the constructor whenever we are constructing something, and new type as well. Okay, so the values will be assigned over there. So it is like very basic, simple examples which I have provided here. Okay, how to write and all those things. So you can just go through them. Okay, and it is very simple, and it will get certain outputs. Okay, whenever we are calling those constructors, parameterized constructor. Okay, so if you see here, I already used one display separate method, and to print this name and type. Okay, so the name and type are under the learning constructor string name and type, and this name and type are declared over here, and it is in the constructor. Actually, we were trying to you know um, we were trying to assign the value of new name and new type to the existing class name and class type, so that you can get that display in the display method. Okay, so in the public static void main, whatever we are doing, we are just trying to create an object, and we are just calling that you know required method object one dot display. What it is going to display? It is going to display hi, and the type is default. Okay, so this is the output. Okay, so this is what, like, what we learn on the constructor. It is very simple. Constructor will be helping us to create the objects. Okay, so whenever you create an instance of a class, the constructor, by default, constructor will be called one time. Okay, and if you wanted to assign something to constructor, you can create a parameterized constructors. And once a parameterized constructor, like, once a param or value passed to it, you can refer that to the class variables, and you can utilize in the class. Okay, any questions on the constructors? Just taking a pass. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. Okay. Now we will come to a topic called inheritance. Okay. So what is inheritance? Okay. So generally, we have a very good example, like ourselves only. Okay. So when we compare with your father and mother and your grandparents and all, right? So you see lot of similarities from your father and from your mother and also your grandfathers and grandmothers, right? So what exactly that does, right? Because you are inheriting those their futures, okay? And you are looking very similar to them, right? So inheritance is when a class derives some properties from another class. Similarly, like whatever we took an example, okay? So you are deriving lot of properties or lot of similarities from your father, right? So and you will be having your own property, your own identity, and but it's still you are going to inherit all the properties whatever you have it from your father, right? So this kind of concept if we implement on the programming, okay, so what exactly it does, right? So it is going to have a class A and class B. So if you wanted to utilize whatever you have it in the class A, you can directly go and utilize in the class B by inheriting the class A to class B. So whenever you inherit something, you call the main class as a parent class, and the inherited class, okay, which inherited, right, some properties from class A, that class will be called as a child class. Okay, yeah, something like this. Okay, so what you are doing, you are extending. What you are extending, you are extending the properties whatever you have it from your parent class. Okay, so similarly you create a parent class, and when you create a child class, you extends the parent class features. Okay, so that's what I mentioned already. A child class inherits all the members of the parent class, and object created of type child. Okay, an object created of type child, okay, can be used access all the parent methods, okay, parent members also. Okay, why? Because you extended the parent class in the child. Okay, so the constructor is never inherited. Okay, so parent class will have its own constructor, and child class it will be having its own constructor. Okay, so it cannot be inherited. So yeah, this is a very simple example which I wanted to show. Okay, class, and public class is another class. Okay, so it is having one method, and there is one more class which you declared it as a main, so which is extended another class. And what you're doing, you're simply using you're creating your main object, and with that main object you're calling add method. Add is where it is there in the another class, but you extended that class, so you are allowed to use that method. Okay, so simply you can just create your own object on the child class, and you can utilize the parent methods as well. Okay, so this is uh, what it will print, it will just sum those two numbers, and it will print the answer for you. Okay. Okay, so let us check what kind of types of inheritance, whatever we have it. So the types of inheritance are single, multi-level, and hierarchical. Okay, so classes can inherit from other classes in many different ways. Okay, so this brings, like, to study different type of inheritances. One is single and multi-level and hierarchical inheritance. So we'll go through one by one. This is single inheritance. Child class will be having one child class and one parent class. That's it. So child class will extends, the data from parent class. Okay. It is very simple. Okay. And the syntax for this, to create everything, you just need to follow this uh, child class parent and the class child extends parent. That's it. Okay, so when it comes to the multi-level inheritance, it is also very simple. Okay, so you just, like, create a couple of classes. Okay, one is class A and class B and class C, and class A will inherit it. Sorry, class B, will pull the properties from class A, and class C is going to pull the properties from class B. That means, what is your parent class? It is the parent class is class A. The parent class is class A, and the child classes are class B and class C. Okay, but in the multi-level inheritance, the down, like, the last class, whichever you declared it as a child class. Okay, so the child class will be, the last one, because it has like, it can inherit the properties from class B and class A, right? So whenever you declare a C method, right, C object, sorry. So C object, you can directly access the data members within the C class, and also within the B class, and also within the A class. So class C is having access to the all methods, whatever we have it in, class A and class B. Okay. So this is called multi-level inheritance. So multi-level means, like, it goes, like, it will start with some class A and it will end somewhere. Okay. Inheriting that properties, to one class to other, one class to other, right? And there is no limit. Okay, that's what I was trying to say. There is no limit, in this chaining. You can extend any classes or any many times. Okay. Yeah, now it is hierarchical inheritance. So hierarchical inheritance will have only one super class. That means only one parent class, and this parent class can be, used in a different way. Like, class B can extend A, and class C also can extend A. Okay. So in this hierarchical approach, what you do, like, whatever we have it on the class A can be used only in the class B. Okay, if we use extends. Okay, and similarly, the class C also will be having all the properties from class A. Okay, this is called hierarchical inheritance. Okay, and you see the simple syntax: class A, class B extends class A, and class C extends class A. It's not B. Okay, if it is B, then it is a multi-level inheritance. Okay, if it is A, that is, it is called as hierarchical inheritance. Okay, there is one more also in Java, that is called multiple inheritance. Okay, so multiple inheritance was not supported in Java because till now you don't know about interfaces. So once we had that concept of interfaces, we'll discuss the multiple inheritance. Okay, so multiple inheritance can be achieved by only using interfaces. Okay, so for now, to summarize whatever we learned, actually, we learned about various types of inheritances, right? Okay, and how it can be utilized in our programs, right? How you write them, like, what is the syntax, those things, we learned it. And we learned that like multiple inheritance is not supported by Java. Okay. Okay, before going to the next topic, do you have any questions on inheritance? Okay, I'm gonna cover with an example tomorrow, inheritance, and whatever the topics that we learned today. We'll be having an example, okay, code, how this inheritance is going to work and all. I'll show it in the example. Okay. Any questions on the inheritance? Yeah, if you don't have any questions on the inheritance, what we do, actually we will stop the class here, okay? Because the next topic, actually the polymorphism. Okay, polymorphism, will be containing, like, couple of other overloading and overriding concepts. Okay, so let's see. Tomorrow we'll start from overloading, and then we'll complete the polymorphism tomorrow. Okay, yeah. So we can, if you guys have any questions, do let me know now. Otherwise, we can stop this session, for today.